Yeah, Sam Sim, 3:57 in the morning on a Friday. Oh man, shit. I am thankful. You know, I had to put Mr. Kenny on that last video called "Low Middle Class White Man's Political Rant." Just kind of show you my range because a lot of black YouTubers on here. They kind of stick in one area, one bubble, and I can understand that. But, just to broaden things out and to prove that it is about the economy, I figure I'll get a couple of people who I know who live in lower in communities, of especially white people, you know. And I know some guys who are, considered maybe the upper middle class of white people as well. I know a couple of executives and, um, I even know a couple of guys who actually have political offices in Ohio as well as in New Orleans. And, it's just showing my range. Like, the video that I did where I talk about, the Democratic Congresswoman and shit. Like, she is really a Democratic Congresswoman, and has been for years now. And then, even with her, like, she plans on starting her political party eventually, and she wants me to take part of it, and I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, even the conferences that she and I has had, I have a bunch of them, and I haven't really posted them up. Um, and I here's somebody from the complete far other side. So just listening to Mr. Kenny, I mean, it just proves that it's about the economy. It really is. And it's like, it's sad because you got one end of a group of people who actually understand this shit, but then when you look at the black community, it's like motherfuckers still won't wake up. Like, they're still too busy pointing the finger and shit. Like, motherfucking police, man, they don't give a fuck about, Black Lives Matter. And then, when we go to court and we lose these trials, it's like, everybody's crying and shit, you know what I'm saying? Everybody's upset. But then it's the shit that we caused on our own. Not the actual murder, but just the way the system is fucking built. Just the way it's ran. And, like I always said, even at the beginning when all of this shit kind of started to get big with the whole Trayvon Martin shit, I always said that, the trial can go either way. It just depends on how we have the system set up. And then, even with that, like, we still have to take and work as a people to even get the system a certain way. So, it's like if black men and black women refuse to go to jury duty when they have the opportunity, when it's their civic duty to go, and these guys are like, and I've heard them. I heard like older black women say this shit. I've heard middle-aged black men. I've heard young black men all say, "Oh, I'm not going to jury duty. Shoot, I'm gonna just say that I'm biased," and they don't go. And then the other half is just afraid to go to jury duty because they think it's some type of fucking, scam or some shit where they'll pick you up and bring you to jail. So they're afraid to even go to court because of some shit they think they have hovering over their head. But, they get upset when they talk about, oh, the jury was all white, it was a hung jury. And I mean, this is why. And then all on top of that, in order to become a member of the jury, you have to pay taxes, and you cannot be a convicted felon. So what does that leave us in the black community? And especially in the areas where the crime takes place. So, it's weird. Like, me and Mr. Kenny, we go back years. He stays around my aunt, and even with my aunt, like, the whole area where they stay at, it's like it's a mixed group of people, black and white, but they all, stick together because they all go through the same problems for the most part. They kind of tend to look out for each other and shit. It's a small town where they are, and It's like, damn, bro. The economy is fucked up. Like, Mr. Kenny really goes through it. And I've seen him. I've seen his frustration several times in person, man. So like to get him on here was like, yeah, like yeah. Um, there is really no reason to be calm, like when we start talking about politics. Like there's certain topics that I tend to stay away from. I kind of like skim the surface on, and it's because either people don't understand it, and that's why I don't use, a lot of big 4 syllable words, because I know a lot of people that I'm trying to reach will not get it, they don't understand it. And, a lot of YouTubers on here, it's like this intelligent match and shit. So, it's always good to reach out to the people of various different backgrounds. And, you know, that's why I did that shit. And that's why I did the video with the Democratic Congress lady. Because even with me and her, like, I met her early last year, and, we got to talking, and, we swapped numbers. And, when I called her up, like, a few months later, she remembered, like, immediately who I was. And I was like, wow, that's great. That's great. And, I mean, it's just, some of the issues that we deal with when you start pushing both sides, Democrats, and conservatives. When you start pushing that shit, and you get down to the basis of it, and a lot of these people, they realize, well, yeah, you know what, this is a controlled system, controlled by a group that is bigger than us. And like a lot of them starting to realize that. I had to tell Mr. Kenny this shit. Like, a lot of people, man, they're lining their pockets in the system, but people are starting to wake up slowly but surely, and that's why I'm glad that Donald Trump is in office. I just looked at his poll ratings yesterday, and I was like, damn, that shit is terrible. That shit is terrible. But do I hate Donald Trump? No. I mean, do I support Donald Trump on some things? Not everything. But hell yeah, man. I think that his fuck ups, to a certain extent, can help wake America up. You know? It can help it. It can definitely help it. I'd rather have the blunt truth in front of me than have some shit sugar coated. And that's what a lot of people, rather, have just the complete opposite. They'd rather be, pacified. They'd rather have the false, truth that helps them to feel good, rather than just to have the bare naked truth that can hurt them. And then in some cases, like, that's a problem that I have, but it's not on a larger scale. Like when we start talking about how the world works and how the economy really is and how socialism is fucking us up as a people, my problem with it is like more on personal shit. Like I'll deal with just certain things at one time, but I still face them though. I just don't face everything at one time, because sometimes the shit could just be a little too much to take and deal with. But when it comes down to how the world is, you have everybody just is clouded by this over saturated media that just constantly tells them lies, and you have to spend all of this time reading in between the lines to get the fucking truth. And then you got the de-education that's out there. You have just a lot of people just feeling that they're more important than the next person, without any acknowledgement of themselves, as far as the kind of ability that they have for themselves, and there's the respect and the dignity that they have to amongst themselves, and how they react amongst other individuals. There's no diplomatic adjustment when it comes down to people, as far as just living in a civilized world. So shit, it's gonna just get worse. So shout out to Mr. Kenny. Shout out to my homeboy B. put his uncle on the line and shit. So he can kind of like rant, and his father's the same way. I mean, his father's probably even worse, man. But yeah, I had to do that, and then like eventually, I'm even gonna have like some of my upper class um, white folks, to get on here as well and say some shit. Besides, my Democratic Congresswoman friend, I'm actually gonna get someone who is on the conservative end, the far right end, and I'm gonna have him on here. I'm gonna have him, kind of go off and say some of the shit that he has to say, and a lot of things that we agree with. There are some things that we disagree with. There's no discipline, there's no accountability, and the things about both sides that I don't like uh, is the fact that they argue about the simplest shit. And I do believe, like Mr. Kenny said, like, these guys are in restaurants at the end of the day smiling and laughing at the rest of the fucking citizens that are here. Because you got one side that's, pro right, and the other side is pro choice. And the way I look at it is like, it's that woman's fucking choice, So, to be liberal and say, well, you know what, that's her choice, and then, we have these arguments, me and some of my conservative associates, they're like, well, what came first, the chicken and the egg type of conversation, where it's like basically, they're saying, well, once the man squirts in the woman, skeets in the woman, she's automatically pregnant. And I'm like, no, 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 and they don't believe in birth control. A lot of these guys, they don't believe in the morning after pill. And I'm like, look, it's that woman's choice. Like, if she wants to take and have the baby, like, she's the first teacher. So, and then you got, the pro, the pro guns, or, just banning assault rifles, on the far left side. And I'm like, man, why would you want to do that? A lot of these Democratic people, they live in poor communities where there's no economics. So without economics, it brings poverty, it brings crime. And these guys are advocating against assault rifles, And the next thing you know, it's going to be against handguns. So I never got with that program when it came down to the Democratic Party. So, and I understand why it is the way it is. And just the simplest things, the simple shit that everybody argues about on both sides is just a bunch of rhetoric. They just keep us divided even more as a people. So that's why I didn't vote this year. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, well, you know what? Donald Trump win, it won't be so bad, but I just can't vote for the man. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave this video as it is, man, and kind of like do some things before I get the fuck out of here. And you guys be cool. Sam Sim. Peace.